The Porcelain Doll, Yuri. Have other people ever experienced a moment where they realize the presence of something and then it registers later that this thing has been there the entire time? Right in front of their faces, but us being the oblivious beings that we can be had no idea it was there all along. There was no way I could be alone in this. We were a couple of months into the school year by now. Those first week jitters and strategical planned outfits had come to an end, and we slowly began to find our places within the school's towering walls. Now, picture a hind leg walking toward us. I'm sure a certain animation comes to mind. Now, instead of that walking turtle, it's freshmen hauling around cram JanSport backpacks that would possibly last us two-thirds of the school year. Talk about a fast way for a kid to be sentenced to a lifetime of chiropractic visits. Thinking about the school year, it always felt like one of those short films people put together whenever we would walk through the hallways. What's going to happen today in between the bells? Is anyone going to start a fuss? Would John be making out with another girl behind the school bleachers? To my own disappointment, this didn't happen. I'll be honest with you, the movies were a lie. Either that or my school was boring as hell. Lunches were split into three separate groups, and all of these three groups, everyone was split into two different slots. Freshman lunch was in the second. I remember sitting at the table with a group of friends, old and new. It was also surreal. We were in real life high school. We discussed how our classes were going and what instructors we already didn't care for. I couldn't recall what drew my attention to have my me turn my head, but whatever it was, I thanked the gods. For in that moment, I was certain I'd fallen in love all over again. Who was this kid? I knew that I had already seen him around the campus, but couldn't figure out where or how. His smile shined across the room, demanding to be noticed. The way his skin shined underneath the shitty fluorescent lights was astonishing. He had what appeared to be remarkably smooth skin. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me, but it looked to have that dewy, finished look. Maybe I had been reading a little too much of that vampire book that had everyone all riled up. You know the one. It was as if someone was following him around, spritzing his open skin with water from one of those cheap plastic spray bottles. I observed every single detail of him. He really looked like a porcelain doll, plucked from a perfectly kept shelf. The way his cheeks had that soft blush pink to them made me swoon. His curls fell gently onto his face, covering his eyes, bouncing around playfully as he walked with his friends. In this large space, it was just he and I. I imagined that he smelled of soft lavender and gentle vanilla. His make-believe scent danced around in my nose. I couldn't seem to take my eyes off him. Then I heard a voice. Well, one I imagined he had. A voice that was rich with a calming, mild mid-tone would dance from his luscious lips. Something of an angel. My mind was in full story mode. I could hear him calling my name softly, and I could almost feel his smooth hands slide across my bare shoulders. His soft voice rang several times more as I watched this mysterious boy disappear behind a pillar, and like that, he was gone. But once more, I could hear him call for me. On this time, it came with an unexpected shove. Marcus, Marcus, what are you staring at? My friend Gemma asked as she nudged me again, peering around to find where my eyes were locked. This guy, I couldn't manage to put the words into proper formation. Oh no, I think Marcus is having a stroke, Gemma said as she smiled with the others, but I paid no mind to any of them. My focus was still caught up on questions I needed answered. Where was he from? What year was he? Was he gay? I'm not having a stroke, Jim. I'm fine. Have any of you ever seen that guy over there? I asked, pointing towards where he now stood, surrounded by his friends. As I got their focus to where he was standing in line, I heard their words of approval. It was surprisingly a relief to hear those reactions, partly because one, it meant that I hadn't imagined him, and two, that they also thought that he was attractive. Win-win. I've seen him a couple of times in passing, but I'm pretty sure he's straight, Jim stated through a mouthful of food. Disappointment swept across my face. We would have made a beautiful couple. I knew we would be the couple, meeting up between classes just to see each other, sharing a warm hug and kiss before we parted ways. I was certain two of us would stay up endlessly talking on the phone, giggling sweet nothings, until one of us fell asleep before we could say goodnight. Marcus, where are you right now? My friend Felix interrupted. Did you hear what I said? I, in fact, did not hear anything anyone had said. No, I'm sorry, I'm totally spaced out there. What did you say? My mind slowly phasing back into reality. I said that he is in the choir. I've seen him go into there when I go to band class. He's a singer? I'm in love. Jumping nearly a year into the future, I had had a taste of my first musical and I loved it, and it was most definitely proved to be the perfect place to get to know people from different social groups. The long hours of rehearsals and tech work left us with no choice but to engage with one another. It was a full time job without the pay and benefits. It had some benefit to it all, though, Marcus, right? Right? During all these rehearsals and overnight run throughs, I had been able to befriend the boy of my dreams. Not in an ulterior motive sort of way, but I genuinely enjoyed our conversations and time. I had all but begun to put behind me the cascading thoughts of the two of us ever having any story beyond this. And though I never said it aloud, I was certain he knew how I felt about him from the way I got lost in analyzing every curl on his head, the airy whisper of his voice, and the slick angles of his face. That, or one of his girlfriends had leaked his secret information to him. Yuri. What a beautiful name it was. A beautiful name for an even more beautiful individual. I learned to control my gaze as to not make him uncomfortable, but long enough to capture every expression and feature was grueling. Our conversations were never forced, which uncomplicated things. It was surprising how easy it was to talk to him. Listening to him speak about the things he loved relaxed me, and I became lost in every word that flowed from those bewitching rose-tinted lips. He could How could anyone not feel the way I felt? Hell, even if I weren't attracted to men, there was no denying his beauty. That summer, I decided to hell with it. I wanted to shoot my shot. If someone were to ask me today how it all began in the exact moment he and I began to speak as more than friends, I wouldn't be able to answer. That part of my memory fails to cooperate with me. On unlimited access over my mother's phone, it started during the summertime and it all began with choppy conversations, the usual, "Hey, what's up?" I'd ask. "Nothing much, just with the fam. How are you?" He'd respond. "I'm good, just enjoying the summer," a much foundational response, and so forth and so forth. And after a constant flow of text, I had built up the courage to ask him if he wanted to play 21 questions. Now, if you haven't played this game, it can be dangerous territory, so tread lightly. I don't recommend playing this with some people, but it is also excitingly enlightening. We told each other our favorite movies, colors, and things to do. He continued on to mention that he thought I was a good performer and he enjoyed watching me. Instant blushing. This had made me childishly happy. Sure, this was a game, but he could have easily said no, but here he was, willingly and actively answering all my questions. Tell me the things that were important to him, and they weren't one word responses either. This too made me thankful to be in this moment with him. Then it hit me like a horny sack of balls. The urge to take things a step forward and test my luck. Would I do something like this today? Probably not, unless I knew for certain that they had feelings for me. If he didn't want to answer, he didn't have to. He had discussed this before we began. If a question poses to be too personal, the person may choose not to answer. Simple. I still wanted to ask. What did I have to lose besides a perfectly budding friendship? Was I willing to sacrifice what we were building at the expense of filling in the blank puzzle pieces of hoping that there are more to the story? Yes. Yes, I know. I was stupid, and I was what I hate about the gays today. But YOLO and something about me told me that he would be okay with it. I'd probably be transferring to a different high school the following year anyhow. So I did. Have you ever been with a guy before? I had typed out faster than I even knew myself capable of doing, and in such a habitual manner, I pressed that send button. Off it went into the invisible swarms of texts, emails, and bulletins. My fingers trailed over the keys, wondering what he was thinking now that it had come through to this device. My heart connected with the ground. I was gutted, imagining the look on his face as he read it. What the fuck is this shit kind of face? My stupid, how stupid could I possibly be? Maybe I could play dumb and make it seem like it was a mistake. I could lie and say I had intended it for it to go to someone else instead. No, that wouldn't come up well, barely believable. Fuck me. My mother was off in the kitchen preparing dinner or on the phone at the time, and I made my way outside the apartment and onto the dingy steps that sat just to the immediate right of the entry door. It felt as though I had waited ages before the response finally came through, and I was far too nervous now to open it. I observed his unsaved number on the lock screen, unable to bring myself to unlock my phone. I mean, what's the worst he could have responded? I don't like guys. I'm not gay. I don't feel comfortable answering that question. I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're weird. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you ask me that? I knew you were only getting close to me for this reason. Oh no. I thought I need to relax, but it was too late. My hands began to shake. As I opened the message, I prepared myself for the worst. Wait a fucking minute. Did I just read that correctly? I wiped away the delicate tears that formed from staring at the screen, making sure to read each word intently, almost uncomfortably, to make sure what I was reading was in fact what had been typed and sent. Yeah, I have, a couple years ago, he gradually responded, straight to the point and something I had only hoped for but never expected. The value of his content is what mattered most. What had made him answer my question? Why had he disclosed information to me? He trusted me with a secret? Now the roles had turned. I sat there, dissecting each word and realizing that I had left him waiting for my response. Now I was the one taking an eternity to respond. Oh wow, that's cool. I take that it didn't. I take it you didn't quite like it. Then I responded coyly. Was I ready to accept the fact that perhaps it was just a phase, something that he had wanted to explore and answer his own question, accepting that the gay life wasn't the life for him. I found myself becoming jealous of this mysterious individual. Why was he so lucky to be with him intimately? What was so special about him? Part of me wanted him to say that he liked it, but just didn't feel it was for him, but that he was up to try it again with me. Even if he was gay, I could understand why he would keep it a secret. I knew from our conversation that his parents were very religious, and so was he in some parts. It would only make sense that he kept that part of his life hidden from them and pretty much everyone in his life. Did anyone else know besides myself and the mysterious guy? I thought. It was actually pretty nice, he said. It was actually pretty nice. I could happily die. I shrieked aloud. The woman walking down the stairs staring at me like I had gone mad. What do I do now? Should I continue in this direction and ask everything I wanted to ask, or should I dial it down and keep it PG? Fuck it, let me lay it on him. Slowly but surely, sex had made its way into the conversation. Sex. Of course, I was privy to what it was. I mean, I had watched porn a couple of times by now. I'm sorry for lying about the porn sites and possible virus that attached itself to the home computer. So I knew what it looked like, how it sounded, where things went. It didn't take a scientist to figure things out, but I didn't know what it felt like to go all the way. I'd never seen another guy's butthole, let alone sexually, sensually touch my own. I was ecstatic, and the thought of being with him made my blood hot, but I was undeniably nervous. The last time I did anything with the guy was with Eric, and we'd never passed the threshold. Was he the one I wanted to do this with? Had he gone all the way with this mysterious friend, or had they only done mouth and hand stuff too? Was I ready to do all of it so soon? Why not? I liked him and I could tell he was feeling the same way. To the outside world, he was this straight kid, but secretly, he had obvious feelings for me. It only made sense for it to be with him. Who was I really kidding? He had envisioned this moment where I had envisioned this moment where more times than I would like to admit, experienced the occasional wet dream and even run one out a couple of times. When you imagine the moment where you are finally going to lose your virginity, you create this perfect experience with a special someone. You have a strong link to this person. And in some cases, they don't even know that you exist, but whatever. The timing is impeccable and both parties are both consenting for it to happen. Then there's the verbal walkthrough of how things will go. What do you like? What do you think you like? What sort of things have you done or seen before? And once all of that is out of the way, it's time to get hot and heavy. It's time for you to put your body with your mouth was with all the extravagant talk. You know that most of the things you spoke about won't even come about. But this moment, crisp as the apple that Eve supposedly ate in that garden made for the two of them, I think of nothing more than being with him. For some reason, I lied. I said that I wasn't a virgin. I didn't want him to know that. Why was I embarrassed to tell him this? I wasn't at all ashamed, and it wasn't a bad thing to still be a virgin. I deduced it to me wanting to appear as ready and experienced as he was. Otherwise, I thought that he would be turned off at the idea of me being an inexperienced virgin. Do people feel pressure when they take someone's virginity, I wondered? And there's only so much you can discuss over the phone, which may then make the World Wide Web your designated teacher. You would discover that everything you thought you knew about how this was going to go down was wrong. The person you thought was meant to be the bottom was in fact completely wrong. The longer I searched, the more confused my mind became. There was so much accessible information. Sex was everywhere. Preparation is key. One of the top rated web headers read, "What does that even mean, preparation?" My eyes doubled in size as photos began to pop up. It's true when they say you can really find anything on the internet if you look hard enough. My question was, why had no one made a step by step guidebook for the little gays out there considering losing their virginity or those who simply want information that would be inclusive? I shivered at the thought of my mother's face if she would discover what I had been looking at in the search history. That would make for a disturbingly uncomfortable conversation, grounding, and home incarceration. Banned from using any form of electronic until I left the house. We can't have that happen. Delete as I go. After the new week quickly approached, Judgment Day had arrived. Days of talking about our bodies being closed and the built up sexual tension had become unbearable. The longing look we tried so hard to hide when we went around others. The touches we kept to a minimum. Conversations poised and collected, careful not to raise suspicion. My brain had stored all the preparation information it could handle. I can't wait to touch you everywhere, he had told me one day. Sitting next to him and trying to act normal was hard. Being so close and knowing, feeling everything that we were going through and not being able to touch each other the way we wanted was pure torture. Above all, I just wanted to hold his hand and rest my head up on his shoulder. But we could not. Instead, our hugs lingered a little longer than they should, but not too long. The occasional gentle touch at the base of each other's back as we helped or guided another to something. With each passing day, the time for us to finally be together inched closer. I shouldn't do it. What if I fuck up and ruin everything? I can chicken out right now, and it'll be fine. No problem. Just tell him you had an anxiety attack or your cat died. You don't have a cat. He knows that. You don't want to cancel. Marcus, you know deep down you can't pass up on this opportunity. How couldn't this all work out in the end? He wants you, and you want him just as much, if not more. As you may have noticed by now, I am quite the overthinker, and I talk to myself a lot. I don't answer though. Never answer. If you answer, that makes you crazy, right? I'm not crazy, right? Here we are on the big day. It's arrived. Today's the day. This is the day. The day is here. The day that things are going to happen and go places. Can't you tell how excited I am? I convinced my mom I had some homework I really need to focus on before rehearsal so that I could get out of going to the store wherever else they were going. The store was about 15 minutes there without traffic, so that gave me 30 set minutes plus about 40 extra minutes with their shopping time. Nor my mom, she liked to be in and out, but I was more than certain she would have a few additional stops before making her way back home. She would surely think I was being shifty if I texted her at every half hour asking where she was, so I couldn't do that. I'm going to walk you through this excruciating experience with me because if I had to live it, the least you can do is read about it. If you have never done this before, do understand that it is a lifesaver, but should not be done on a regularly as it will disturb the lining and processes of your intestines. Easy way out of this: don't eat 3 meals a day from McDonald's or Taco Bell. Eat lots of veggies and make sure you have a good amount of fiber intake. Have trouble swallowing pills? No worries. There's also fiber powder. Don't like that either? Well then, you're shit out of luck. Pun fully intended. Full intended. I stood there in front of the mirror mentally hyping myself up, using the Dove hand soap bottle to prop the phone. I began to read aloud. Douching, the how-to guide for a clean experience. Such a civilized way of telling me to flush out my insides. The key to having a clean experience is to take your time and make sure that the water runs clear. You don't want any unnecessary accidents. You want to make sure that mentally you're ready for this. The whole knows all. If you're nervous, it'll pucker. Just relax. And again, take your time. Or something along those lines. But you get the point. It was extremely informative. I felt the presence of a guardian there in the room. I could hear her voice softly instructing me how to tend to and care for my butthole. Because I was obviously a nervous wreck, her reassuring voice would pop in from time to time from behind the shower curtain. It's okay, dear. Take your time. It's quite alright to be a little nervous, she would say, her voice slowly fading away. I probably had this sink running for a good 5 minutes now, and I knew for a fact that my mom was going to be livid when she saw next month's water bill. Let's get to it, shall we? Step 1. Fill the douche with room temperature water. Fortunately, little old me had no idea what a douche was or how to procure one. These were the water bottle days, and you had to work with what you had. Step 2. Wash your hands before applying a decent amount of lubrication to the outer part of the anus. Massage to relax anus. Vaseline will have to do. Step 3. Rub a small amount onto the head of the douche. Step 4. Lie into a fetal or face down position. Step 5. Gently place the nozzle tip against the anus and slowly insert. It helps best if you exhale while inserting. Step 6. Slowly squeeze the bottom of the douche to release the water. Step 7. Allow for the water to catch hold. You will know when you need to pass it. Step 8. Making sure to keep the area clean. Repeat these steps until the water runs clear. It is best to have a bath afterwards as to relax the body, and voila, your insides are cleaner than the purely gates of heaven. Congratulations. If not, perhaps you need to light off the extra large bean burritos and up your fiber intake. 35 minutes later, and I was determined to never do that ever again. How could someone willingly subject themselves to such an extensively tedious task every day? The waiting, water swishing around your bowels had to be the most uncomfortable thing. Each time I moved my stomach, it sounded like waves crashing onto the shoreline. I can imagine making a habit of eating my food just to flush it out for some guy's penis. But for this guy and his penis, I think I would make an exception. I promise this is the one fictional part of this entire book. I wish I could explain why my memory is so fuzzy when it comes to this specific detail concerning Yuri. But for now, I'll have to create one tiny bit of information. I don't recall if it were after rehearsal that I drove with him to his place or if my mom dropped me off. So for the aesthetic flair of things, let's say that we went together after rehearsal. So what I can assure you is that for the amount of anxiety, fear, and excitement I was feeling were too much for my body to be handling. Everything around me felt like it was closing in. Every time I thought about him, I got an erection. Sounds were muffled, and my sense of touch was fainted by small tingles at the tips. And yet, what kept me going was the assurance that in a matter of hours, long and dreadful hours, I would be sharing space with the boy I hopelessly fallen for. We would create a special moment that I'd only hope wouldn't be the only occurrence. That, come the following day, he would treat me as a stranger. I would wake to the sound of his faint breathing in my ear and kiss him good morning. And we would continue with the day as normal as one possibly could after such an experience. His mother had prepared dinner. We had the normal discussion of how long we'd known each other and how the show was going, where I was from, the story of my parents, and so on. All the while, my focus was on what underwear he was wearing and would he what he would taste like against my tongue. I hadn't yet seen much of his body besides a few stolen glances of his upper region during rehearsals, but I imagined he wasn't lacking anything, and I wondered if he would still be intact or not. I had only seen them, ones that were uncircumcised, in a few porn videos. There was so much talk around school about the topic. Why there was such a stigma concerning uncircumcised guys, I'll never understand. To each their own at the end of the day, but unnecessarily subjecting a baby to such a bizarre practice is insane. But again, to each their own. Could he tell what I was thinking? Was his mind also on what he had so vividly spoken about days, hours before? Or was he just playing it cool because, like he told me, this wasn't his first time with the guy, and I was the one who was still a virgin? After dinner, he went to the shower while I sat watching TV with his younger brother, Angel. Do you sing as well? I asked in an attempt to make conversation and distract my mind from thinking about the lathered up Old Spice running down his body. Yes, I do. I think I want to audition for one of those shows next year when I start at Destiny. His name was fitting to the sound of his voice and features. Their mother popped out beautiful children. Oh, that's awesome. I look forward to hearing you sing. I'm really excited for what Mr. Thorpe decides to put on. I actually overheard. My words trailed off as Yuri emerged from the bathroom, steamed closely, following behind like a well-trained dog. Chills spread throughout my chest as I stared at him longingly. His hair was damp from fresh wash and rested loosely on his shoulders. My eyes scanned his entire body. The towel tightly wrapped around his petite waist gave just the right amount of view to his midsection where the V shape began to fall. His skin was the shade of his lips now, that soft, plush pink from the hot water he allowed to touch him. I was jealous of that water. What it must have felt like to drip down his body and along each drip, into each crevice. I rushed to my feet to have my turn in the shower and stripped my eyes away from his body. I left some hot water for you, he said as he walked past me, the smell of curve rushing into my nostrils. I wanted to take him right there, then and there, rip off that damp, oversized towel and have my way with him. Instead, I grabbed my handful of clothes from the sofa, held them tightly against my chest, and made my way to the bathroom. We'll see about that, I replied, to which he chuckled. He did that on purpose, but his brother noticed my uncontrollable stares. Had his brother noticed my uncontrollable stares? In the bathroom, I wiped away the built-up stain from the mirror, staring at my reflection. I smiled. There was no calming me down right now. I closed my eyes and tried to envision him in his room at that very moment. What was he thinking? Was he getting nervous now that we were literally moments from conquering each other? What I would give to be there, massaging lotion or oil and whatever onto his body, taking my time to rub it in, trailing my fingers over his shoulders and down the side of his arms before taking his hands into my own. How we would look into each other's eyes before sharing our first kiss. Would it be as perfect as I had hoped it would be, or would he turn out to be a face eater? I giggled at the thought of him inhaling my face in a failed attempt to kiss me. I sat on the heavy flow of water, allowing it to wash away the built-up anxiety. I checked and double-checked and triple-checked to make sure it was good up in there in case I wasn't one to be bottoming. Just in case. I mean, we hadn't discussed positions or who was doing what. I assumed it made sense to be prepared for whatever. As I finished my inspection and rinsing the body wash away, I noticed that I had begun to pre-cum, level unlocked. I emerged from the bathroom, ready to take on the world. His brother was still in the same spot as before. He looked over at me quickly before the TV took his attention again. And there was Yuri, as beautiful as ever, in a crew neck and shorts. Their mother was in the kitchen listening to music as she cleaned and loaded the dishwasher. We were going to put a movie on. What do you want to watch? Angel asked me. I looked at Yuri for his input, and he nodded his head. I'm not too picky. I'm sure I'll like whatever you choose, I said as I made my way to Yuri's bedroom. There, I touched his bed and actually observed the layout of his room this time. We had to quickly drop our things because his mother had dinner ready for us when we arrived. There was so much stuff, but everything had its own special place. He meticulously chosen where everything would be, and I wanted him to be just as meticulous with me. We watched the movie as I lingered around him in the room for a bit. His mother sat on the recliner while the three of us were on the sofa. I couldn't touch him here, not now. I knew his mother didn't know about him, and I wouldn't dare ruin this opportunity for us. So, like good friends, we sat there. The more the movie neared to its end, the more my nerves began to creep back in. My hands and ears started to feel hot, and I began to doubt if I was ready for any of this. Do I want us having sex to be the first thing we did? Would he even want to speak to me after today? How awkward would that be, to pretend like everything is okay as we sing and dance together in a musical? For a moment, my heart felt too heavy to contain. I'd fallen for this guy, and he'd made it not easier not to. It made sense for me to feel the way that I did, the way in which he spoke to me clearly. He felt the same. To think of this not going anywhere past today made me want to gather my things and run out the front door. When the movie finally ended, we said our good nights. Yuri and I made our way to his room, where he quietly locked the door behind us. I couldn't shake the feeling of this just being a hookup. It began to weigh heavier and heavier to the point where I couldn't bring myself to look at him. I shuffled around, hovered over my bag on the floor at the edge of the bed, thinking that if I made up a lie to Belle that I could retain some sort of dignity and live to see another day. A day where I wasn't forced with regret every time I saw his face. What's wrong? He asked quietly. Fuck. Nothing. I don't know. I guess I'm nervous and a bit worried. My voice showed off. What are you worried about? He sat down at the foot of the bed. Did he even care what was actually going on in my head, or was he asking to be polite? Would it even matter if I told him the truth? I'm worried this is going to happen. I'm worried this is going to be it. That we're going to do this, and well, you're never going to actually feel for me the way I feel for you. Had I said too much? He went quiet. An unknowing expression fell over his face. I definitely said too much. No, I wouldn't do that, but I don't know what's to come, you know. I like you, and I think you're cool, but don't worry, we'll be okay. He inched closer and placed his cold hand on top of mine. I closed my eyes and let go of the breath I'd been holding. Thank you. And before I could say anything else, he lifted my head and placed his lips up on mine. His eyes wide open, I stared back at his closed lids. He's not a face eater. As I sank into the moment of us, my eyes slowly closed. I fumbled from the miscalculation of how high the bed was, and he helped me find my balance. We wrapped our arms around each other. I could feel his heart beating against my chest. At the same time, I could feel his penis getting hard and pushing against my own. My hand moved up under his shirt, and I gently pressed my nails into his delicate skin, carefully leaving a mark. He lifted my shirt up and began kissing my chest before he started grazing on my nipple. Oh, I like this. New level unlocked. Nothing else mattered. Not school, nor my classmates. Not his mother, who was yards away. I didn't care about the night sounds or the unknown future. I was here with him, and that was more than enough. It was everything. He had my focus, and I wanted to give him my all. Whatever it was that I had to give at the time. I took his shirt off and pushed him back. My lips connected with his neck. I could taste a subtle hint of sweat from his body beginning to heat up from the excitement and testosterone coursing through him. His jugular beating against the wetness of my lips became my guide. I followed it to his shoulder blades before I wandered down to trace upon his nipples with my tongue. I peeked up to find him looking at me. His eyes were fixed on me, on my every move, and asking me for more, to keep going. There was no doubt that I was wanted to, and I would. I put him to his feet and gently gnawed around and around and let my tongue outline the veins and muscles of his pelvic area. Outside of his shorts, I took his throbbing, rock-hard cock into my mouth. He wanted this, and I loved how he showed it. Tiny moans of pleasure, hands caressing my head, trying to grip onto me. I slipped my hands into the now jumbled waistband and slowly pulled his gym shorts down until they dropped to his ankles. His hands thrust forward, and that was all I needed to take him deeper to my throat, gagging on him and bringing him closer to these. I stopped. It's my turn. I stand up, grab his face, and got it to me. I kiss him deeply. I want him to taste himself on my lips, and with that, he glides down my body, now eye level with my cock. He looks so good right there. I can't stop watching him. He grabs my cock and licks the tip. He's trying to size me up before he takes me in, and that's exactly what he did. He fits me halfway in, and it feels so good, the warmth of his throat. I can almost feel it with my tip, and I crave the tightness. I knew awaited me should I go deeper. He keeps sucking and swirling his tongue around. He's done this before, I thought. It feels really good. I want to fuck him right now. I bring him up and turn him around, ready to drop my cock into his ass. I grab the condom and feel him hesitate. What's wrong? I ask over panic breaths. I'm nervous. I don't know if I can take it. It's gonna hurt, he answers. Fuck, it's fine. He can't fuck me. I haven't done this before. It'll be okay, right? I'll be good. I assume the position face down, ass up. He comes behind me and touches my ass, gliding his hands up my back, sending shivers through my spine, and my cock is hard as a rock. He keeps touching me, now rubbing my hole. He circles the entrance with his fingers, over and over again. I like the feeling of his fingers right there. I want more. I want him in me. He lowers down and kisses my butt cheek before creating a trail of kisses to my hole. Once there, he lingers just a while longer, sticks out his tongue, and laughs at my entrance. once, kissing it one time more, and licks it again and again. I arch my back, giving him better access. It goes on forever, and I'm not complaining. I hear him open the condom, and within seconds, he's pushing against my entry with his cock, willing it to expand, to allow him inside. I moan as he goes in little by little. Shit, I have to be quiet. I bite the pillow as he goes in a little further, in and out of me, in and out, in and out. My ass has accustomed to his size now, and he picks up speed. It hurts, but it feels good. I keep biting through my moans and bounce my ass against him, matching his pace. I use one of my hands to grab my cock and pump it while he fucks me. I'm gonna come, he whispers, and I pump a little harder. I'm gonna come too, I reply. He finishes with the final plunge, enter my second hole, and I feel myself so close. I jerk myself off while I wiggle my ass on him. He is still inside. He pulls out slowly, and I feel him against my prostate, and just like that I come to. My body jolts around, spazzing out as I collapse on the bed, and he lies right next to me. Our breathing is synchronized. We smile at each other innocently, and I kiss him softly. The events of our forbidden evening played in my dreams and burned deep. It wanted to stay there forever. I felt like a new person. I'd gone all the way with the one guy I intended for it to happen with. But when I turned over to kiss him good morning, he wasn't there. And my mind started racing. Had his mother come in and found us both shirtless and in our underwear while we were asleep? Had she drugged him out of the room and started ripping him a new one? I was terrified to leave that room as I frantically peeled on my clothes. I looked around for any perfect possible exit. There was only a window in the room behind his bed where he watched the moon fade into darkness as our eyes closed. You'll be fine. You're literally overthinking this for no reason. I gradually drew back the door and made my way into the open central room. Everyone was sat at the table preparing to eat. What a way to make an entrance. Good morning, Marcus. How did you sleep? His mother asked me as she set down plates of food. I slept well, thank you. A little different not being in my own bed, but it was restful. It was a restful night, I lied. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. I've just finished breakfast, so whenever you're ready to join us, she continued. In the bathroom, I smiled from ear to ear. Had all that actually happened? As if so, how the hell was I going to keep my attention elsewhere? How in the world would it be possible to focus during class while I was home or at rehearsal? I could still feel him inside of me, and I held onto the flavor of his body, of his ass, of his penis, all of him. Last night, I felt like he entered me in more ways than physically. At the table, I tried to act as normal as one could after a night like mine, discussing the upcoming show and share my enthusiasm for opening day. His mother was a sweet lady and proved to really love her kids simply by the questions she asked and how she actually listened to them. It was warming to finally see where he got his kind heart from. I wonder if our future kids would have his enduring personality. Marcus, you're staring. Stop. I looked around nervously from the clock to the floor, to my sweaty palms rubbing against my Adidas track pants. Why were my palms so clammy? I wanted to run my leg up his, rest my foot gently behind his thighs, and push against his junk until I could feel it rising beneath the sole of my foot. But I couldn't do that, and that was gross. I couldn't do that here. Not now. What if I were too distracted by the pulsation of his cock that had been inside of me just hours ago to realize that someone had dropped something and he discovered what I was doing, what he was allowing for me to do? What would I say then? How would I make sense of what they had just seen? There was no possibility, there was no way possible that I'd be able to. How embarrassing would it be? Imagine the shock on his mother's face as she unearthed who her son really was, and at the dining table of all places. No doubt that her mind would rush to us alone in his bedroom. Alone in his bedroom. Her blood would boil. She flipped the table in a Latin rage, grabbed us both by the collars or throats, whichever she preferred, and jam us into the wall. Melt our skin off from the sheer volume of her voice, Sindel style, and wring us dry before tossing our raged bones into the ragged bones into the trash can outside. On the ground, my feet remained, and when it came time for us to finally leave for rehearsal, I don't think I'd ever moved so fast from sitting before. One of our castmates had come to give us a ride, and we piled into her red minivan. We made our way through the town, bobbing to musical numbers and talking about those of the cast that weren't necessarily carrying their weight. I looked at him speaking, and all I could focus on were his lips moving at 1/16th of their speed. The slow pull of those beautiful lips moving back to reveal that gorgeous smile and the benevolent echo of his voice. I was infatuated by him, by all of him, and all I wanted at that time was to be together in bed, in his bed. I'm changing schools, I'm fucking changing schools. As if my life couldn't get any worse than it had already become. Somehow, what had gone down between Yuri and I had made its way around the theater department. Everywhere I turned around, someone was asking me what happened, how it happened, and why. The question they were really wanting to ask was, why you? What made you so special? I kept trying to figure out exactly how they found out. And once the gossip had circulated back to him, he barely looked at me towards the end of the show. My heart had been ripped out from my chest, seeing him and not being able to talk to one another. Watching him force distance between us, it was a pain I hadn't experienced before. It was different than what I felt with Eric. I thought that was heartbreak, but this was something worse. This was life ending, unbearable and unnecessary, but I could do nothing but to try to understand. When I began the new school year, everything was different. The people, obviously. The style, obviously. Everything felt unfamiliar and out of place. I felt out of place. Destiny High School was putting on another show, and I was gutted that I hadn't been able to be there to experience it with him. Experience it with them, with him. But then again, towards the end, I began to resent myself. I began to resent many of them. The way they had treated him after finding out was disgusting. The way he treated me was no better. So, why couldn't I shake what I was feeling? Why was I still wanting to be around these people who had made me feel like the black sheep, outcast? Why did I care? The show opened, and against my better judgment, I made it top priority to go and check it out. A couple of my friends were in the cast and on crew, and so was he. I hadn't spoken to him since the cast party of our last show. I had attempted texting him and got no response. I tried calling and was forwarded straight to voicemail. But here I was, eager and optimistic. Maybe the time we spent apart had been good for the both of us. Maybe the commotion had died down. Everyone had worked their shit out of their own. It wasn't my job to try and explain my side of anything, but guilt crept into my body as I stood in front of those auditorium doors. Why was I feeling this way? What did I have to feel guilty about? I watched the show alone. Every time that he walked on stage, my heart stopped. I wondered if he'd seen me out in the large audience, if somehow he felt my presence, or if one of his castmates had told him I was there. I wanted him to look out at me and smile like he'd done so many times before, telling me that everything was all right and that it would all work out just fine. I knew that was a lie, though. There was no way in hell that any of that would ever be my reality, and it would serve me better to accept that now, that given any more thought that it could be. Something felt off here, and I couldn't work it out what it was. I felt a heavy sense of being unwelcome in a space I spent so much time in not even 4 months ago. I was being watched. I stepped into the place where I was now under heavy surveillance. The show ended and it was cute. A bit rushed and rough around the edges, but it was cute. It had potential, and to add a notch in my list of dumb choices other than going there that night, I brought he and his brother a flower from the concession stand, and after I'd finished congratulating my friends on the show, I decided it was the time I delivered them. So I made my way over to Angel, who had just finished talking to two swooning girls. "You did amazing, Angel. Your voice is beautiful," I said to him. The boy really has a voice on him. "Thank you so much," he replied. I could see his body language was tense. Of course, I was shocked. I really had no idea I was the edge. I was the edge of my seat listening to you. "Wow, thank you, Marcus. Did you like it?" He asked me in that sweet voice of his. It was nice. I think there were some spots that could have been worked on, but overall, it was a beautiful show. Okay, way to be blunt. Yeah, I agree with you, his eyes looking at the flowers now. "Oh, I got one of these for you. Have you seen your brother, by the way?" I asked as I handed him one of the roses. "Thank you. That's so sweet of you. And I think I saw him walk outside with Katie," he responded. "Okay, I'll go take a look. I'll see you around. Great job again." I don't know why I didn't stop while I was ahead. As I walked out the auditorium doors, I saw that their mother had cut their stride and was making her way in my direction, and the guilt rammed into me like a dump truck. I instantly got the shivers, and my arm was loaded with goosebumps. This was the feeling I had been suffering through the entirety of the show. It was she who had been looming over me like a hawk, her eyes drilling a massive hole into me, into my very core. What should I do? I thought. I could have easily rerouted my course of direction and made my way to someone else, but I was less than 6 feet away. My brain and legs were clearly not on the same page. I was walking into a trap and I knew it. Fucking perfect. She saw me and she's walking towards me. I was internally shouting. Freaking out, I looked over and saw that my friends had begun to pile into the back seat of Gabby's mother's car. I could run now and never look back. Her force continued to pull me in and immerse an immense weight, lugged me closer and closer to where she now stood alone. I was a fish in a hook. I peered over to my right and saw Yuri sitting on a bench with Katie and a few of the other girls in the apartment. We locked eyes for a split second before he looked down. Hi, Miss Iglesias. How are you? My voice was beyond monotone. Did she know? I'm good, Marcus. Is your mother here? She knows. No, ma'am, I came alone. I should walk away right now. Let me ask you something. How do you think your mother would react if I told her what you did the day you came over my house? How you talked to my son into sinning like that? Do you think she would appreciate the fact that you lied to the both of us? Her voice punched through me. No, ma'am, she wouldn't, I responded, my eyes still on Yuri as he avoided looking my way. He knew what was happening. I find it very disrespectful of you to have come into my home and do what you did. It is disgusting against what God has intended. I am disgusted, and you should be too. That is not why my child is here. He is not a homosexual. You stay away from him. I don't want to speak to either of my children ever. I don't want you to speak to either of my children ever again. Do you understand? Her eyes burned into my skull, demanding my compliance. Yes, ma'am. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't breathe. When she got in the response she wanted, she made her way back inside to join the other parents or whatever it was she was doing. Leaving me there looking stupid, I was frozen, statuesque, hurt and humiliated while he sat there and did nothing. And when my brain had finally rebooted and told my lungs to breathe, I let out the biggest of gasps. I turned, tears still, falling to the ground and caught the girls looking my way. They rushed my way and guided me to the car. My legs were weak. I felt like nothing. Her words had completely obliterated anything and everything I knew or thought I felt about him, about myself, about my life, about everything I, in that moment, felt beyond isolated. I looked back once more as they helped me into the car, and through my filmy vision, I saw him looking away. In his eyes, I knew he felt some sort of guilt himself, and that small ounce of empathy shattered me all the more. Goodbye forever, Yuri. Hi, Yuri. For so long, and I mean for a very long time, I thought of what I would say if I saw you again after that night and imagined what you might say in return. I held on to the hope that you would have had any ounce of decency to reach out and ask how I was doing and to apologize for how everything went down. I'm sure you got the brunt of her wrath, but you could have warned me. You could have let me know to keep my distance, but you did none of that. Instead, you sat there silent. You remained silent for years. No apology. Nada. Nothing. Zilch. Fuck all. You allowed for me to publicly take the blame for something we had both organized and taken a part of. You let your mother speak to me as if I had been the one to tarnish her oldest son's good faith. I wonder if she knew I wasn't the first. Had you told her that when she confronted you about it? How exactly had she found out anyways? Did one of your close, jealous girlfriends run to her because they had realized it was truly never going to happen for them? Still, you said nothing. I trusted you, Yuri, and you fed me to the wolves. I reached out to you several times, only to get nothing. I gave to you what I thought was a big deal, but it was just sex for you, nothing more, nothing less, and I was the fool to believe otherwise. How did it make you feel, watching me stand there in front of her crying my eyes out? Did you feel bad? Did you want to run over and save me from the humiliation and pain? Did you feel anything at all? You did a great job at showing it if you did. You sat there talking to them like everything was okay. I was in pain, Yuri. I was confused. I was alone. I was alone against this grown woman, against your mother. And what could I have done? I wanted to tell her to shut up and fuck off, but I couldn't bring myself to do that. But really, you could have, but really, what could you have done? I think about it now, and I don't know why I ever expected for you to raise from the bench and come over to us. I have the slightest idea as to why I assumed you would be this night to save the day when you so easily weaseled away after we shared that night together. Was that your plan all along? Hit it and quit it? Was that really all you saw me for? I blame myself for thinking you would be someone you so clearly had no intention of being. I gave you all this power, and for what? To only have you throw it back in my face. Years I spent resenting you for all those you called your friends. I looked like a complete fool, and you made me feel no different. Years later, I reached out to you for some sort of closure on my end. I realize now that closure isn't always needed. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know how. Even as I watched these message bubbles snaking at the bottom of the screen, I knew whatever you had to say would never be enough. So many years had passed, and you had told the world who you were. What would anything you had to say solve for me now? The pill I had to swallow was that after everything had gone down, I still had feelings for you. I still longed for that moment to be us. How insane is that? What was this Stockholm Syndrome reality I was in? Ironically, I don't even remember what you said. I went back a couple of days again to check for the messages, but they were gone. Probably for a good reason. The short moment we shared through the chats a few years back felt like things had made come full circle. I thought just maybe that it was actually going to happen this time. I wondered a few months later if I should just have taken you up on that threesome with you and your fiance. Truth is, I wouldn't have paid any attention to him at all. And I know you that well. It is all, and I know you that knew it as well. But how could I ever trust you again or anything you had to say? I forgive you. You were also a child, and there was not much you could have done to save me in that moment. It would have been nice for you to reach out, but what would have that changed? If anything, it probably would have made things worse. I forgive you for your mother's sake. She should not have handled things the way she had. I should not have walked away, but for so much of me felt as though I deserved all her words. But she was an adult speaking this way to a child. I forgive you for it all. I forgive myself for holding on to it all, this pain for so long. It wasn't my fault. It was never my fault. The only thing I was wrong of doing was falling for the wrong guy. You can never forget your first, or so they say. I don't want to forget you, but damn does it feel good to let all this shit go. Sincerely, Marcus S. P.S. Many people always wonder where my distaste for flowers came from. It was from that night. After your mother had ripped me a new one, I stood there with that single red rose I had purchased for you, squeezing it until I could feel the liquid of its stem oozing out between my fingers. Since then, I've hated the idea of flowers as gifts, though I still do it from time to time now. But for so long, when I saw them, I thought of that night. I could hear her voice, see her angry, twisted face, feel the heat of her barking words. I thought of you.